Hey guys, welcome back to Danger Planet. This is Doug. I'm here with Brandon,
Yeah, buddy.
and today we're talking all about the brand new expansion that's about to drop for Vagrantsong called Vagrantsong Encore.
Encore. Dude, can I just say, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I am so excited about Vagrant Song Encore. I think Vagrant Song is like probably one of my favorite co-op games of all time, without a doubt. Of course, if you are listening to this video, you probably have heard of Vagrant Song before. But yeah, buddy, dude, Vagrant Song Encore. Oh my god, I'm so excited.
Yeah, Vagrantsong is, I guess we'll start at the beginning for folks that don't know exactly what we're talking about. The TLDR here is that in 2022, Wyrd, which is the same publisher that makes Malifaux, released a boss battler called Vagrantsong, where you play one of I think it's like 4 to 5 characters that are
Two, two,
vagrants.
two to four players, total of six
Sure, yeah,
vagrants.
totally fair. Play a vagrant, which is a character with a specific set of abilities, on a ghost train. And this game is very much a cooperative boss battler, basically. And the game did awesome. It basically kept selling out over and over again. Wyrd is about to have their Kickstarter for Vagrant Song Encore go live. So this video is really focused on giving you guys as a consumer a little bit of a preview on what the heck is this game, what comes in the expansion for it, and what to expect for that Kickstarter. Spoiler alert, Brandon and I have played a bunch of this now and we both really love it. So we're obviously going to be backing it. We think you guys should too, but give us a couple of minutes here to explain why.
Yeah, and the Kickstarter. It's worth noting that although we don't have any of the off the rails content, the Kickstarter is actually going to include two separate expansions. Um, you'll see a video that goes live on our channel later where I interviewed Kyle. Sort of about what they're doing and go over some breakdowns of Encore and off the rails. But um, for basically, we're talking mostly today about Encore specifically. Off the rails is going to be also available in that Kickstarter, but not yet.
Not yet. So we gave a little bit of a high level review of what is Vagrant Song. Brandon, why don't you break down what comes in this box? What is it? What are the components?
Yeah, so we've already talked a little bit about the fact that there are a bunch of new scenarios, which is super, super exciting. But outside of that, there's definitely a ton of new skills and junk, which are the core sort of mechanics that you get, the cards that make your character interesting and unique. But there are three other components in the expansion that we want to talk about. The first component are the turn tracker tokens, which admittedly Doug and I have mostly played two player, but in three and four players, they're super super helpful because they let you track who has taken their turn already. So if you haven't gone at the start of the round, you flip over to go, and when you turn your turn marker over at the end of your turn, it's just a really great visual reference for the rest of the players to know whether you've gone or not. Secondly, we have the generic coins, which are sort of twofold. There are new skills and actions and rewards and scenarios and stuff that will give you these generic coins, which you spend on your turn, just like your normal coins that you get with your Vagrant. But the coins that you get from the actions, like the generic coins, have to be used during the next turn or they go away. So, in essence, they function exactly like the Rabbit's Foot, where you just get to assign one more AP worth of stuff, except that they're not junk, so they just they'll sort of co-mix, which is just insanely powerful. Actions are what you do. That's how you do everything in the game, and getting more of those is really really strong. But also, you can use them as trackers for coins that you get through ritual rewards or other things and decisions that you make, which is something that I'm really glad that they've decided to include in this because it's sort of a component that's been needed in Vagrant Song. And that's super, super cool. I'm really glad that they're sort of seeing and getting the feedback and then putting out a component for what people need. But the coolest new component by far, I think, are the Smoky Bones. So the Smoky Bones are a new set of dice that you can add, and you can have up to two at any time. When you get them, you just sort of sit on them until you want to use them. And at any point when you roll bones during your turn, you can add the smoky bones. You roll them afterwards. So you get to choose to use them or not. There's 4 different faces you can get. There's a +1 and +2, which if you roll that, you add it to one of the dice that you rolled. So if you fail miserably and you wouldn't have succeeded anyway, it's probably not worth using them. But they can be totally the difference between having no successes because you rolled like one shy and not. And in that case, they're super, super helpful to use. But there's also 2 special faces on the smoky bones. So if you get the music note, you get 2 automatic successes just flat added to whatever check you're making. But if you roll the other special face, the skull, all the smoky bones you rolled for the entire ability, doesn't matter if you rolled both or just one, are blank zeros. They don't do anything and they don't help any of the rolls, and you basically just wasted them. So they're really, really cool and they're super, super helpful. But the more you use, the less likely they are to be helpful, because if you get a single skull, it blanks the whole bit.
It puts a little bit of risk into the reward of Smoky Bones, which I actually thought was really cool. Because when we were doing the playtesting, remember I intentionally picked one of the Smoky Bones items, that like the items that generate Smoky Bones to play with it, and I actually realized it's like, oh, if you're blowing these like aggressively, there is a potential real downside if you skull, and then it just nukes both your Smoky Bones. You know?
I do
Yeah.
know. Um, but yeah, all 3 of the new components are super, super cool. The Smoky Bones are by far the coolest. I love that concept. And it's super, super interesting game design. Very risk reward. Very cool. The other big thing I think to talk about in the new Encore expansion are the new game modes, right? They are super. Well, I mean, I guess I explained all the components. Do you want to go with the game modes?
I mean, I could, but I was just enjoying the docile sounds of your voice, Brandon.
Wild. Well, who am I to argue? So yeah, we have 3 new game modes. They're all super cool, and I'll just cover them pretty quick. Yeah. So firstly, we have a new chapter. It's called the Bridge of Leaves, and if you've played through the original Vagrantsong campaign, this adds a whole new bridge, a whole new chapter that you can insert into your campaign, which will increase the size of your campaign by approximately 33%. And then we have 2 new other scenario um, game modes, rather. And those are short trip mode and save your soul scenarios. So, short trip mode is really neat. It lets you basically play through just one of the chapters of the campaign instead of playing all of them. It starts with its own starting place, which assumes that you know how to play the game. So you probably want to play through Shelter from the Storm before you start a short trip, if you haven't done that before, because that sort of teaches you the game, whereas short trip mode, you just jump right in. And it really changes, I think, the in between cards. So the in between cards they're completely their own set of them, and it's random. Unlike normally when you play through, it's a storied scripted experience. In short trip mode, it's sort of random, so you presumably will get a whole bunch of new cool things. We haven't done that yet, but hopefully are going to very soon, and it looks like it's going to be a blast. And the last new game mode are the Save Your Soul scenarios, which aren't a game mode in and of themselves. You can actually incorporate them into anything, including short trip if you want. Um, Although they recommend starting from the beginning with that. But basically, in the event that your Vagrant ends a scenario westbound, which is a thing that happens to us all, there is a new spot where you track that on the milepost progress sheet. If you After you go end a scenario westbound, you read whatever the little moment blurb is for the box that you just checked, which could result in a couple of things. It's always going to result in some sort of cool story, but it's possible that your Vagrant will get baggage cards, which are new negative cards that are going to hinder you some way in a scenario. During the scenario, they'll have an effect, and they have a remove effect at the bottom, which is what you need to do during a scenario to get rid of them. But it will also sometimes say that your Vagrant is no longer playable until their friends save their soul. If they do that, you can do that. You can attempt any save your soul scenario during a camp phase. You skip the in between phase and go right to the soul scenario. And when you do, you get to play through, save your friend, but also you get to learn all kinds of bits about their history and a little bit of their lore and sort of the inspiration for why they're on this train and why they're going through their journey. And it is by far one of the coolest things that we had. We got to play through the Save Your Soul scenario for the Empress, and oh boy, is that a cool scenario! I'm so excited. Unfortunately, I don't want to spoil it for you, so we're not going to do too much, but we'll show some pictures. But at the end of the day, like I'm just so incredibly impressed with the design on these scenarios, and they're just unbelievably cool. Uh, and like, oh man, there's so many cool things. Like the short term mode's amazing. I think that the idea of bringing down the campaign size is super cool, especially for people who just don't have like weeks and weeks and weeks to commit. You know?
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely the way that I'm gonna probably the vast majority of how I experience this game, honestly. Which is awesome. It's awesome that they kind of gave us that way to like play through it. And I think generally at large, you mentioned it a little bit, but they've done a lot here to kind of flush out a lot of the different corners of the game. Like for example, um, Smoky Bones and baggage cards add like a pretty substantial new element to the onboard game, while they've obviously added on the background a lot of different scenarios, and then they've fully fleshed out the westbound experience, which is like really cool to me. So I feel like they've taken the core of what made the game really cool, and they've kind of pushed it a little bit in each of the design directions to give us a little bit more, and then they've also offered the alternative experience, which again, I think that's how I'm going to probably play the majority of the game. But they've kind of flushed out the holistic view of what makes this boss battler cool and fun without, I think, adding too much. Like sometimes, and I think you might agree with me here, Brandon, you and I play a lot of board games, and sometimes you get an expansion and it just feels like really heavy, like from a rule set standpoint and from an add on standpoint. And it almost feels like it's a totally separate game. To me, when I was playtesting this with you, it didn't feel like a totally separate game to me. It felt like a natural, pretty cool progression of multiple elements of what had been introduced in the original game.
Yeah, it just adds a lot to everything, right? It's like it adds a little bit here and there in a really like holistic way that just sort of ties in super well, and it doesn't add anything that's like super. Hey, we're just gonna go do our own thing, and like what even is the point of having the base game and not making a standalone, right? It's very integrative. It adds a bit here and there. It adds a whole new chapter, which I think is just very cool. So if you've already played through Snowblind, the Bone Orchard, and Tunnel Vision, you get something new to experience. And if you haven't played through those, pick up. I'm sure that you'll be able to pick up the core game through the Kickstarter as well. Um,
And we'll
but
link the Kickstarter below for everybody.
yeah, oh, of course, yeah. Once that goes up, but yeah, I mean, I think in particular, I'm just super impressed with the Save Your Soul scenario. But it's just so unbelievably cool, and I mean, like all in all, I think the baggage is just like you're following a psychopomp on a ghost train trying to save the world. Like baggage is the last thing you need.
I mean, it's the last thing you need, but I think we all know. We
Yeah,
probably all have a little bit, you know?
yeah. But so that's what we got.
I think some of the coolest stuff that I was most excited about, because I remember when we were opening the box, and I kind of like a small little gremlin grabbed it from you, and you're trying to open it. And it's like I want to see what the new boss art looks like, because you can see on the box there's the beehive guy, which is super cool looking, right? And then there's a couple. I don't want to reveal too much, but the boss designs are really cool. Brandon and I played through a couple of the new scenarios, and when you get the game, it's 21 net new scenarios,
Yeah,
six of which are a concept save your soul scenarios. Spoiler alert: there is also six uh, new westbound specific Vagrant models that come with this game. So you actually have now a physical representation on the board of a westbound Toonsmith or something else like that, for example, right?
yeah, and they're quite a bit larger. They're exactly the art from the back of the character boards, but turned into one of their awesome acrylic standees,
Yeah.
and they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous standees, and they are oh, they're just so cool.
I was playing with them for like 10 minutes while you were telling me rules, and I wasn't paying any attention to you because I was just like, Brandon, look at how cool these look. And you're like, Doug, like, these are the rules. And I was like, yeah, but look at how cool these look.
They do look very cool. You're not wrong. And that covers basically everything we have to say about Vagrant Song Encore and why you should back it. Um, I just want to give a special thank you to the folks at Wyrd. Nathan and Kelly and Kyle, you guys are all amazing. We love your products. We love this new expansion and we can't wait to back it. And if you have a minute, I would say check out the Kickstarter. You definitely want to back this. It's going to be super awesome. If you don't have the core game, get that. And thank you so much for our cool new logo. It's the coolest. It's Talk as a Haint in the Danger Planet spaceship. Oh my god. So like, back this game. It's so cool. That's what I got. Doug, you got anything fun to say?
You guys should check out this game. It's going to be sweet. We're going to link Dice's video where he interviews the game design lead behind the whole thing, the mastermind, as well as the Kickstarter. And we're going to link also the core page on the Wyrd shop where you can get the game, like the core original game from. So we hope you guys check this out. It's a really sweet game, and we've had a lot of fun with it. We think you guys will too.
Well put. So yeah, I mean, check us out, like the video, subscribe, check out our Discord. That's linked below too. And I think that's pretty much all I got. So bye.